Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alien vs. Predator Galaxy podcast. This is another motion tracker sub-series episode where we talk about some of the latest happenings and news around the Alien and Predator franchise. I'm regular host Aaron Percival, aka Corporal Hicks, and joining me are my fellow cryogenically frozen hosts.
Adam Zeller, aka RidgeTop.
Greg, also known as Still Collating.
And this last guy, this last one, he's decided to pull us out of our cryotubes, throw us into an arena, and make us duke it out. We are joined by a special guest, Kailem, aka Stephen.
Heyo.
A voice you've probably not heard very often on the podcast, but if you join us on the streams or on the Alien RPG sessions that we do, he's a regular on there with us. Welcome to the podcast, Kailem.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So,
and real quick, some housekeeping. He may be appearing a bit more often because Greg has been on our staff for a little while, but we thought we'd actually announce that today. So we'll mention it here on the podcast that Greg is on our editorial staff now, as well as one of our rotating podcast co-hosts. And Stephen will be joining our moderation team. So it's great to have you both on board. Glad to make it like official finally. So
It's awesome to be officially part of the team. So hope that I have a lot more to contribute here, and I hope that I'll get a bit more organized and speedier with some projects that should be in the works.
Oh, he's only been on the team for a year or so, and we've only just posted about it.
Well, I think it's important we give people more recognition, when they join the team. I mean, we didn't always do that. I didn't get any confetti when I joined the team, however long ago.
I don't think we were even using fucking social media when you joined the team.
No, I don't think we were. So,
you know what? When I joined the team, I think we were on MySpace. As in the universe, the galaxy was on MySpace. And I think at one point I did actually create an AVP Galaxy page on MySpace because I remember messaging.
I'm going to see if that's still there right now.
Rainbow Sun Franks, who was one of the stoners in AVPR on MySpace. I remember messaging him on there. And I think once upon a time when it looked like we were going to be getting an official Alien War revival, around about the same time, 2006, 2007. I'm sure they were on MySpace as well, and I'm sure that's where I was messaging them. So, old as balls.
Was that before or after the GeoCities version of the site?
AVP Galaxy was never on GeoCities. AVP World, which was my first website, was on GeoCities.
There we go.
AVP Galaxy was once upon a time on, I think it was FreeServe, I think was Darkness's ISP a million years ago. T35 was one of the hosts at one point. Anyway, we're getting in the weeds. But yeah, old as balls, which actually, you know what, has an actual date.
Old as balls has an actual date?
If something is old as balls, it's about 65 million years ago.
Stamped on them.
No.
I do not know that means that phrase has a specific date.
It was something I saw show up recently, but yeah, somebody was like, you know what? When did testicles actually start developing in?
Okay.
And it was apparently 65 million years old. There you go.
So that's dinosaur times then. Right.
Biological fact, the more you know. But
and we do like biology on this parasitical and spine-ripping podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? That was relevant. That was a relevant tangent, right?
We're so deep in the weeds right off.
Do you know what? I was actually going to intro this episode with, do you want to see us turn a 10-second clip into a 3-hour discussion? And
making progress.
There we go.
Yeah, without even getting onto the meat and potatoes of the discussion.
Still got to bring it back to the meat and potatoes.
So that wasn't even intentional. I don't even know if I can really edit around that, especially when these things aren't supposed to be edited. Okay, whatever. I hope you've all enjoyed that little tangent, that biological history, and random bullshit about staff and AVP Galaxy history.
So what
Anyway.
potatoes do we have on our plates today, Aaron?
We have a brand new ending to Predator, Killer of Killers. So we ended the previous incarnation of the film with the shot of the warehouse that the film was codenamed for, seeing Naru in her cryogenic stasis, and then we faded to black. A new version has been uploaded where it continues from Naru and shows us is it Harrigan first or is it Dutch first?
Harrigan first.
So it shows us Harrigan in cryo storage and then moves on to Dutch in cryo storage. About 10 seconds, literally. But somehow it turned into most of the discussion of our stream at the weekend. And we also got asked specifically, are you guys going to be doing an episode on the new ending? So I was kind of hoping this would be more of a mini-sode than actually turning 10 seconds into 3 hours. But I did just want to talk about it as part of like the motion tracker thing, as a recent thing, because it's probably pretty significant change, really, to to the galaxy, to the universe, to the Predator franchise. Because, well, it's unfair. It's unfair.
So, okay, yeah. So this was announced at the Hall H Predator Badlands panel when I was in Comic-Con. They said that this was originally supposed to be part of the ending for Killer of Killers, but they didn't have it ready in time. But they were going to add it now. They showed us the ending, and as soon as like it showed Naru, I was like, oh, they're adding Dutch. Because I had always kind of had that suspicion when we do see another human figure in the cryopods that's kind of obscured. So even when I initially saw this movie at home, I was wondering, are they leaving that open for something? Like if they ever did a sequel, they could show that was Dutch or whatever. But sure enough, they have not only Dutch, but Harrigan as well. So yeah, I can't think of another time. I mean, this is just the age of streaming that we live in, I guess, where a new ending was just retroactively added to the film as a post-credit scene. Like you still get the shot of Naru at the end, goes into the first credits phase, and then it continues on, and we see Harrigan and Dutch.
So that is, I guess, it could be a benefit of the social media, not social media, the streaming age, giving them the chance to do things they didn't get time to do before. But it's the implications of all of this. So how do we feel about this, knowing that Dutch in a younger state has been in storage for however long, and Harrigan, I think, still in his police uniform, he didn't get very fucking long, is still in storage somewhere. Go on, Greg. I feel like you want to talk about this.
Well, over the last week, however many days it has been since the scene was released, me being a bit more on the Discord side and monitoring it, well, things have exploded there in conversation and discussions and arguments about it. It has really gotten a lot of passionate arguments from all sides, because I can understand it from the sentiment that for the Predator side of the fandom, this is different. This is new. Previously, we've had isolated stories. We have had a very kind of formulaic, and not in a bad sense, but a formulaic approach of having we have a single hero, heroine, isolated time, little period, moved up or down, but we have one story, and then the next. It's all isolated incidents. And even with Killer of Killers, they started all isolated, and then at the end it got brought back together for a fourth act that's a bit more, over the top there. So for Predator fans, having something like this that negates previous expanded universe entries, for a lot of people, that was a shock. For people who are more also on the Alien side of the fandom, for us, it was like, okay, in the sense of like, we've already seen this so many times on the Alien side of the franchise that some of us are not so shocked to see that finally happening also to the Predator side.
To
But
be fair, we've already
yeah.
had Prey and
yes,
the
things have
pistol.
things have started there. Things have started there with that, like a singular comic being basically ignored, retconned in that sense. But people were like, okay, that is a relatively like it was a known story and it was liked, but it's not that it wasn't that big. So people kind of understood that. But having this situation, from my perspective, looking it as just an isolated thing, Killer of Killers has set it up pretty well that there's a predator clan that likes taking these individuals, freezing them for later hunts and entertainment. Predators already kind of started setting things up like that, and we also have those previous Predator 3 scripts that had Dutch as a possible returning figure. So, as an individual thing, I don't think it's too bad in the sense that the story could work like that if he was ever to be brought back again in a future animated project. I think that bringing back Dutch would have been better if it was done earlier. Like this, after so many years, I have, on the other hand, this other fear of legacy characters again and again and again and again in every franchise. We have to keep on bringing back characters. If this is just an Easter egg, like, okay, but it's a bit, it would be too hard to pass up as an opportunity for a creative to not use it, since Dan already mentioned that he had talks with Arnold that he approved the cameo. So it's kind of, I would be very surprised if we don't see this lead up to anywhere. And even if a future entry would do this in a respectful manner, I am very cautious and kind of very tired of seeing characters being brought back again and again, even though as an individual part of the story, it makes sense in this type of lore. But from a like returning character standpoint that franchises are constantly doing now, plus the fact that yes, I hate also when expanded universe material is ignored, that is a kind of sour note there. I have a lot of faith in what Dan has been doing. I like all of his projects and what seems to be coming in Predator Badlands. I'm really excited for that, but this is making me a bit apprehensive. I'm not the happiest that this thing exists. I would have been happy if this scene was never revealed, but here it is.
Adam?
So yeah, I mean, it is always exciting to see Dutch back. I mean, we got the first significant return of Dutch in the video game Predator Hunting Grounds, and that was a big deal at the time because there's so many times he couldn't be used as a character, and the guys at Elphonic had to go to Arnold and convince him to put his character in this game. And a lot of us liked that portrayal and liked that aspect of lore with Dutch in Predator Concrete Jungle. They had all these Dutch tapes that went through his history. And it was an interesting history. They wrote a book about that too, which I know we were kind of mixed on, but I still thought some of the encounters he had and some of the history he had was interesting in that. And this seems to invalidate that. As you've said, Aaron, with the expanded universe, something is always canon until it's not. We had the Flintlock with Raphael Adelini. There was a comic on that. Prey invalidated that. I saw IGN recently did a post on this that said fans were divided about this. So yes, while it's very exciting to see not only Dutch but Harrigan, it's awesome to have Harrigan back. He's appeared in a few stories, in a one by Brian Thomas Schmidt, who we worked on with some of the novels before. But to have them both be frozen, uh, I think for this being such a common thing, it just introduces some issues. So yes, while it is exciting and it makes me wonder if they're going to do, like, I know I always bring up Resident Evil, Aaron, but there was this Resident Evil animated film called Death Island where they brought back all the cast from all these different games and brought them together in this one scenario. And it actually worked really well and it was really entertaining. So that could be what he's aiming for here with a new animated film, is just bringing all the main casts of the Predator films into one big conflict, which, yeah, there's definitely potential there. You cannot fault him for wanting to. If that is available, that would be huge for sure. But I can also get the fan hesitation where it does kind of cheapen human victory if they're always just going to be recaptured to be thrown in whatever fight they need to be. It's kind of like, at one point, let them have their win. I remember my girlfriend didn't like the ending of Killer of Killers because she was like, just let Naru have her win. Like, so there's some frustration there. I know Dan has commented that this is a particular clan, but I feel like with Shane Black having to say, like, oh, not all predators like hybridize and augment themselves as just particular clan, when you have to excuse it as like it's just this clan doing it, might not be the best idea, because then we're having to find ways of writing it off in general predator culture. I'm still curious and excited to see where this could go, but yeah, from a lore perspective, there are some things introduced here, some new predator cultural elements, some of which I saw in the 15 minutes of footage that I watched from Badlands, which was overall very encouraging, and I'm very excited for that. That, I don't know, it seems like Dan has his own idea of predators that he's kind of moving forward with. Whether or not that'll ultimately land with a lot of fans is yet to be seen.
Kailem?
Yeah, I mean, like, overall, I mean, the first time I watched it, I had, even though they kind of announced at the panel what the ending was going to be, when they said, like, hey, we're putting a new ending and it's going to feature Dutch and Harrigan in the pods alongside Naru, I still, watching it for the first time when it went live, had a big grin on my face, and overall was much more excited about it than I think I was, like, worried about, the wider implications, because it's definitely something where it's like, yeah, I'm hyped about it because we've been, hearing about the possibility or talking about the possibility of, like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if, like, Dutch especially came back, and if Harrigan came back, and that was almost even more cool. Is like, hey, they're acknowledging Harrigan again, which isn't completely surprising, I guess, because they, Dan had the flintlock in Prey, like you said. But it's, I definitely get, like you said, the thing where, from what we've had now, 5 examples, I guess, if you count all 3 of the human characters from Killer of Killers, where, well, no, 6 examples of humans that have beaten predators then being frozen and, like, taken to this predator planet, as far as, the 3 in Killer of Killers, Naru, Harrigan, and Dutch. And does that move things too much in a direction of, this is just what the predators do now if you beat them? Like, they are always going to come back and capture you, and take you, and does that cheapen, the victories and everything? But I gotta say, just watching it, I was definitely more kind of hyped than worried about where this could go, because even though I've not been someone that's been saying, oh, we need to have Dutch back, I know there's been, like, a lot of people clamoring for a Dutch return, and it was absolutely a big deal when he came back in Hunting Grounds, and that was really cool. And it's kind of a shame that that's sort of been invalidated now, because I thought, like Adam said, the Ilphonic did a really good job with his kind of backstory there from Predator onwards. I'm kind of excited to where it could go, because it definitely, like Greg said, it feels like too big a thing to just leave it hanging there, like, unless he has some kind of plan where it is going to be a big thing where at some point they get woken up, because they're in, like, I forget the Viking lady's name that she's you know,
Ursa?
yeah,
Yes.
Ursa. Because you know, we saw her cryopod like wheeled past those ones, so maybe there's going to be a rescue attempt from the 2 survivors that got away. You know, maybe they're going to go back and maybe they'll bust out a few more, you know, people along the way to help them fight the predators, and that'll be how we get Dutch and Harrigan back, or you know, anything along those lines. But I was definitely excited about it just because it's like, oh hey, we could have adventures now with Harrigan and Dutch, where up until recently, Hunting Grounds notwithstanding, they were kind of characters that were essentially going to be in perma deep freeze. You know, we were really never having, and there was never any chance of getting much more with them, at least not in any kind of
without them
movie
being like,
format.
but
Yeah,
without it being in like that cliche, stereotypical, aged and wizened
yeah, exactly.
overseer of, you know, passing on the
Yeah, because
the
that's
wisdom to the younger generation.
yeah, and that's always been one of my problems with like the really legacy sequels when they bring characters back, where it's like, yeah, okay, you brought this character back, but it's like 3 or 4 decades past their prime when everyone really wanted to see them come back, and it's not the same. And now, at least in animated form, you can have Dutch and Harrigan at the same ages that they were in those films, and you know, have them doing the same kind of things that like Arnold and Danny Glover in live action just couldn't do these days, unless
See,
you hopped him up on Predator juice.
Real quick,
that
I think one point to make is as far as when they wake up, it could be any time after World War II. I guess now it would have to be any time after 1997. But
Yeah.
technically, they could still make it back to Earth. Well, I guess it would still invalidate some of the Dutch tapes with Hunting Grounds. But it depends really how far in the future they are at this point. At least it explains why Dutch's brother has never been able to find him.
Exactly. Yeah. I said on the stream on Sunday to Aaron, it's like Dan has solved that decades-long Dark Horse EU mystery as to why Dutch never got in touch with with John. Never gave
see,
him a call like, "Hey, I'm fine. Don't worry about
I
me."
completely agree with you there, Kailem, in terms of if we were ever going to get Dutch or Harrigan back in a way that wasn't that boring voice in the sky approach to legacy sequels, this was the perfect way to do it. You know, absolutely perfect way to do it. The only thing that really would betray any age at this point is the voice acting,
Mhm.
which, well, you can't help. Well, I suppose in this day and age with the gross AI, you can.
Mm.
You do something about it with consent, of course.
Yeah.
But that is the part where I'm like, I find the prospect exciting. You know, is being able to get Dutch back, and that was something that was exciting about his return in Hunting Grounds. You know, Dutch was very well protected by Fox for 20 whatever years when it came to anything to do with Predator. You know, he couldn't return in the comics, in the novels. You know, we had South China Sea. Dutch was very heavily alluded to, but he had to be called under a different code name. He was Onyx in South China Sea. Fantastic book, everybody out there. I don't think it's worth $300 that you can get it for in the secondary market, but if you can get it for cheaper than that, very worth it. Fantastic book. But they were protective of him just in case Arnie would ever agree to come back. So, you know, when he actually shows up in Hunting Grounds, it is an exciting moment for fans because it's great hearing his voice. The tapes were good. You know, I think it was the Isabel tapes that weren't really great, but the Dutch tapes were fantastic. But like Adam says, I've said for a donkey's years now, it doesn't matter if these people making video games, if these people making books, if these people making comics tell you something is canon. It doesn't matter as if it's EU, because that shit is canon until it's not, because canon is a weaponized marketing thing in this day and age where it's said to get us to be like, oh, it's official, this means they'll never touch it. It's all this point of stuff over the past where I've said we shouldn't care about them telling us things as canon because it could just go. You know, a film And the films will always be the be all end all of anything.
Not even that. Alien Earth is about to teach us. Not even that. And Alien 5 almost did too. So,
well, Alien 5 didn't happen, but
if it did, it would have,
But it didn't. So even then, that was going to introduce a whole other thing of alternate continuities, and it's a whole other different ballgame. But my point is, I don't get attached to these things as concepts because I know they can just. The next director to come along. Do you think Steve Aspel's going to say to Dan Trachtenberg, you can't do that because that game by Ilphonic has done this or done that? No, it ain't gonna fucking happen. So don't get attached to your EU. And if that's what you're upset about, then it's the wrong attitude. Now, that said, I am on the middle of the fence about all of this. And it's not because of the fucking Dutch tapes. It's because on the one side, this is very much a Predator thing to do. Like Greg said, this was something that was in a script in the 1990s before we had super predators or berserker predators or upgrade autistic hunting predators. We had this gladiatorial concept when it was Arnie and Harrigan, Arnie and Danny Glover, and they're only about 5-10 years past the last film. And I think it is a very Predator thing to do. I don't subscribe to the exaggerated Perrys on it. I never have. The Space Samurai stuff, it's not what the films show. The films show, yes, some level of respect for Harrigan specifically, him specifically. Everything else other than that is about them having a good time. It's about them being challenged. It's about them getting their rocks off, doing what they do. So my problem in this comes from Harrigan specifically, because that is where it does feel contrary to the Predators as they've been portrayed in the film. He was given a gift. He was respected. He was let to go off on his thing. And it's not that I don't believe that this gladiatorial clan still goes, you know what, fuck it, let's have him as well.
I mean, it would kind of have to be. It would be, you'd have to interpret that as the Lost Tribe being a different clan. Otherwise, they would have just captured him then and there.
They're all different clans. That's the point we're at now. And fuck it, so be it. But if we are going to go down this route, and I say that like it's a bad thing, cultures are different. This shitty ball that we live on has got many different cultures, many different ethnicities, many different types of people, and of course the Predators are going to be like that. Of course it is. That's not a problem. But when we are sci-fi has this really big problem of the Klingons do this, the Predators do that, the not Genosians, who do all the cloning, the Caminos, that's their thing. They get their rocks off on this one specific aspect. That is a big sci-fi problem, and it sucks because it's, we're sort of ingrained in it. But at this point now, where all the Predators, I completely see the Predators doing shit like the genetic augmentation. They're fucking cheaters. Do I absolutely believe that they will go, you know what? I think I'm going to tinker with some DNA here and see if I can improve myself. I absolutely fucking believe that. But it's when we then start having to, in the background, go, it's a different clan. They do things differently. I think they need to bring these cultural differences actually into a narrative point of view and go, yes, these Predators, there's many different areas. They look different. They have different beliefs. They do things differently. Maybe they all sort of have this base culture of, the hunt is life or whatever. But I think we need to bring this differences into the forefront and maybe actually do a decent Bad Blood, do a decent Predator conflict where they explicitly portray that it is this difference in ideologies that cause some conflict between the two of them. You know, we've seen enough Predator versus Predator fighting poorly done or not done well enough now, but with Badlands, with them giving us actual Predator perspectives and Predator main characters, now's the time to do this. Now's the time to make that word of God explanation for these contradictions in quotation marks between Predator portrayals and make a point of it. So us snickety nitpicking fans can go, oh, okay, yeah, they've addressed it. It's there on the celluloid for me to stop arguing about, and all these fan theories, all these word of God things are there on the screen for us to see.
Snickety nitpickers. I'm going to use that from now on. But no, I agree, and I've found a lot of personal fascination with what predators do just outside of the regular hunt, and I've heard that critique of the Predator franchise in that, like, yeah, different races and singular sci-fi can get caught in like this race is this. And it was something Jamie told me of from the Perfect Organism podcast. He was like, the thing that I don't like about Predator is that it's just the hunt and like that's it. That's the only thing. And I said, well, that's kind of the reason I'm really excited about Badlands. And when I saw the first 15 minutes, it was, yeah, Deck was a real character. And the Predator's been this villain, this monster in most of the films before, not always in the expanded universe. But to see that level of characterization for him, I think it's going to be really big for the franchise. But yeah, I'm curious to see their culture is obviously built around hunting. Like hunting's like their capitalism, I guess, or whatever. But there's still a lot of other things that must be going on. I think as far as a clan versus clan kind of dynamic, I thought the 3 World War comic arc handled that pretty well. But yeah, I think we can definitely explore more dynamics of their culture. And yes, us fans can get nitpicky and we can be like, wait, a Predator wouldn't do this, or this makes sense and this doesn't. So I can get that pitfall. But yeah, this is, while I am also hesitant about this because yeah, I don't like the idea of anytime someone beats a Predator, they're just frozen and thrown into the ring to die or whatever. Like it's just go ahead.
It would have been nice if they didn't include those two at Naru. Just Naru was fine, in my opinion. Maybe just Naru and Dutch would have been fine for me. Again, not being too attached to the Dutch tapes or Stalking Shadows. That book was such a letdown. But not being too attached to that. It's when you start throwing them more and more in. At least, you know, Royce and Isabel weren't in there as well. And I don't want it to become, you know, Avengers Assembled. I don't want it to become Survivors Assemble. Predator Killers Assemble! You know, when fucking...
That's the name of the episode right there.
What's his face shows up with his 32 long suit or whatever.
Yeah. Oh god, no.
McKenna, you know they got to have him in there with the
Oh,
Predator
no.
killer armor.
No, we can take it that that's the proof that they don't take everybody. The Predators came back and had a look and just said, "Yeah, nah, let's just leave him be."
Only the
Broken
best.
suit, he won't
the
be
best.
too much of an issue.
Yeah, don't worry. It's here. Hashtag not all predators, not all survivors.
Well, no, what was it? Not my Predator? Is that the real riff on it?
No, it was not all Predators. That was in the Predator era when they were talking about the juicing stuff.
Yeah.
That's when that became a thing.
I was making a different joke there, but fine.
Over my head. Sorry.
Okay.
But I agree with what Aaron was saying there, that I think it would be really good for the wider fandom to have that conflict of different Predator cultures. Because what Aaron said makes sense. We need a way to define some aspects while also letting things be flexible. What do I mean by that? If you have a conflict in the sense to show on screen, this clan does this clan does things in a different way. You could do it in the sense of there is this predator codex law, whatever, that says most predators do things like that. But within the society, you have these kind of, you can do this variation, but this specific thing that is considered what people call today bad bloods, etc. Or you can do that there isn't any kind of singular culture there, but instead that almost like all clans have some very different ideas there, how to do specific things. And maybe in that sense, if bad bloods would ever be used in future shows or films, then maybe bad bloods could be just something that this clan calls the other clan that does things differently, and maybe every clan calls the other one bad bloods since they do something different. There are ways how you can let the creative aspect be completely open there. As a fan of the Predator series, generally, I am a lot more open to. They are intelligent intergalactic species. They can do whatever they want. For me personally, the core elements just need to be there. Like, why do I go to a Predator film? I want to see predators do. I want to see predators do predator-like things. And what do I consider predator-like things? We need the um, cohesion between technology and tribalism, and we need the hunt, some form of hunting culture to be there. Some sort of premise to be about a hunt with spine ripping. All the other details, they can do that individually, however they want. They can characterize themselves. We've had it in Predator comics. We've had it in NECA figures, the blurbs like behind the packaging, where we have individual biographies of each Predator. There are so many ways you can individualize them. And for instance, for Badlands, everything I've been hearing and about the first 15 minutes, I like that because it still has the core elements that are important to me, but you're fleshing out some other aspects that I think are completely plausible in a Predator culture. I, for one, am not really against the theoretical idea of either this clan or multiple clans, whatever, taking out the winners of past Predator hunts and just being so kind of sour in the sense of, no, we're not letting you get away. Like, you won, you're going to get another shot whether you like it or not, and you're going to get another shot and another shot and another shot in the arena or the Predator's planet thing. You're going to fight us again and again until you lose, until you become a trophy on one of our Predator ships. To me, that would make, again, complete sense as a hunter that's arrogant, that wants to show who's the best of the best. As a hunter species, why not? And I do really agree with what I said, that having them just be mono-simplistic culture in the sense of old sci-fi, all of the species does only this in only that way, that is a bit boring. Like, and for me, it just doesn't make sense for such intelligent spacefaring species. And especially if we actually go by the expanded law, a lot of the expanded law goes in the sense that the clans don't see each other for a long time. They are very nomadic, very separate. So of course you would have some differences there. Again, as long as some core concepts are still there. One of the reasons why I didn't like the Predator so much is because of you lost the tribal aspects, you lost the hunting aspects, etc. What they were doing wasn't so much of a problem. I mean, the reasoning, but it was more of the other elements that I found core to a Predator franchise were kind of missing there. But you can try and explore different things. I rather would encourage that. But having these different characters be picked off from a theoretical standpoint, that is cool. But exactly as said, the Predator killers assemble. God, I have that fear in me so much, in the sense of, even if we do see that one day, I hope it's just for one entry, just one. I do not want that to be milked again and again, and I do not want that to be the focus. from one sense, what Dan is saying, especially when he is asked about Alien vs. Predator future collaborations, he's very apprehensive about a cinematic universe, about approaching it organically and slowly and laying everything down correctly. So I think in that sense, if he's so apprehensive about just making a big cinematic universe out of the bat, I think he would not overdo it. That's my hope with these characters. Another thing I thought while watching that scene was, even if they wanted to bring back these characters like Harrigan, like Dutch, they could have made them older. They could have made them. They wouldn't have to make them a lot older, but they could have just visually done that if they wanted to still have that expanded media to be part of their version and canon. So, I mean, theoretically, it's not even impossible. Like, if maybe they change their mind, it's just a few like still shots. Theoretically, they can do that as well, and like change it just to have them a little bit older. But yeah, if they want them to have like an action presence in a future setting, I get why they would want them immediately younger there. But I just I just hope it's not used uh, that they're not inconsiderate to how corny this can be if it's
Oh yeah,
pulled off
they can't.
loudly.
Yeah, they can't go too far with it. But this is all speculating on the future.
Absolutely.
I do think so one thing I do like about Harrigan being back is I think it makes the flintlock less convoluted. Being in Killer Killers.
Yeah.
Because
So,
go ahead, Kailem. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was surprised to see on the boards that some people were thinking that the flintlock in the arena that we saw in Killer of Killers might take place before Harrigan ever encountered the Predators. I was like, wait, that would make it more convoluted that they
But
would
without seeing Harrigan in the film, though, that is, I mean, I was very much ascribed to that opinion as well. So it's like, so how does it get back to Greyback to, yeah, this way it makes a lot more sense because obviously they take it from Harrigan.
Yeah, and it kind of doesn't matter what happens with it from here
Between.
as far as it doesn't have to link up with anything.
Yeah.
That we'd seen before.
Yeah,
But,
and I also, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, just to go back to what you were saying earlier about like the different clans and things. I mean, that was one of the things I liked about Predators, is that it overtly said there's different types of predators out there and they do things differently, and they can come into conflict with each other.
I wouldn't have called that overt in a cultural way, though, because Predators only ever says it difference between dogs and wolves.
Yeah.
It doesn't establish that it's them doing things differently causing conflict.
No, I just saw it as like, they're doing things differently and that we just see in the movie, in terms of them. That was the first time we'd seen them taking people to their own kind of, not necessarily their own planet, but their own like home turf sort of thing, as opposed to going to like their prey's planet to hunt them there. They were
that was a comment that always used to wind me up about Predators as well. You know how we've all talked here about Predators wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
That's not the way the original was portrayed. When it came to Predators, I was like, but this so fits something I could see them doing. This so fits the idea of the hunter. It's not like all our hunters go fucking to Africa and the Sahara, wherever the lines are. It's not like they all go there. It's not like they all go in the woods in North America. There are hunting preserves. It's a concept, and I'm like, I so see predators doing this because it also then makes the prey dangerous because their back's up against the wall, and that's when an animal gets its most dangerous. So sorry, just a little tangent there, because you know how much I'll defend predators and how much that sort of argument of this is not a predator used to piss me off when it came to those things. And it's actually really nice to see this divergence of things from the core element. It's really interesting. It gives a lot more. It gives the writers, it gives the directors, it gives the creatives a lot more playing ground to do predator-ish things, but still expand it without it just always being this one fucking thing that is the first movie.
Yeah, because sometimes if you I think you can potentially fall into the trap of like, if we just say this is what they do and nothing else, or if we say this is this is set in stone, this is a part of obviously we know, hey, predators like to hunt, like that's kind of a given. So at some point, whether it's just that's what they like to do, it's a cultural thing, whatever, they do that. But if you start saying like, okay, yeah, it's like predator law that after every predator gets this age, they have to go out on a hunt, blah blah blah, and making it too specific, you almost start like shrinking the universe when you answer questions in that specific way and make certain things so specific that it's like, okay, we've answered it in that way, but does that help the franchise as a whole? Or because I've always thought that one of the good things about Predator is that there's a lot of mystery to it. There's a lot of questions left unanswered, and that was one of the cool things I liked about Predators. It's like, oh, okay, they're explicitly saying they're in the movies, not just in the expanded universe, that there are different types of predators, and they might have different ways that they go about hunting, and they are in conflict with other predators. Why? We don't know, and they kind of leave that up to your imagination. So if they did start answering stuff like that, I wouldn't want them to necessarily get too specific with it, because I kind of like that some of the stuff you can just say, oh, well, I'm going to headcanon it as to why this is the case. As long as it's not something where you're having to headcanon like a movie's deficiencies or whatever, or plot holes or anything like that. But just, in a way that isn't shrinking the universe down by answering some of these things specifically, as opposed to, leaving some mystery there.
Go on, Adam. You've been wanting to for ages.
So yeah, I think the dynamics between the clans and even different individual predators, like in Predators, it seemed to me like Mr. Black was a bit more aggressive with things than Falconer was, because Falconer, when he had that sword fight with Hanzo, there were times where he would just let him get back up and continue to fight, whereas Mr. Black would just impale someone on the ground. I do hesitate. There is kind of an overuse of the term bad blood, I think. And as far as like other clans labeling some clans as bad bloods, I mean, again, we've seen that in the 3 World War arc where they talk about this clan in a
didn't
very...
say them being bad bloods, though, did they?
Yeah, but they said they were a taboo clan and they were like really looked down upon. So they didn't say that specifically, kind of alluded to it. I would be hesitant about the idea of clans just branding other clans as bad bloods they don't agree with, because I like the idea of some diplomacy or some congregation between the clans. My headcanon is still that predators at one point were more of just a bigger advanced society and were not nomadic, but they had such violent tendencies that they pretty much killed off their entire race with war. And they kind of had this massive cultural shift while they still maintained some of the technology, but they split off into different tribes, and hunting became their kind of outlet for their natural aggression. That's just my wild headcanon, but
that's fun though, because that also speaks to a lot of like fiction of humans nuking themselves into the dark ages and having to reestablish society. So that's actually, I like that, Adam. That's a cool little piece of headcanon.
Yeah, I've thought that for a long time, that they were once just a bigger, more advanced race that was too naturally violent, had too much war, and almost destroyed themselves. And after that point, became nomadic, but still maintained really advanced tech. But that, I mean, feel free to steal my idea. Like that, that might be an interesting thing to explore. Like
It'll be in Dan's next movie now.
But no, I think yeah, there's a danger there, certainly, in terms of like predators do this now, predators do that now. Like it would be nice to have some of that portrayed on screen, and Predators did that a little bit with Nolan's character. So yes, having certain clans do certain things, I would like to see that explored a bit more. Sarah, who's in our Patreon chat, brings up something interesting. She says, who's to say that being frozen isn't a reward, or at least seen as a reward? There was an odd moment at the end of Killer of Killers. Although they're keeping them in a cell and shoving them around, they still bow down before the human prey before they go into the arena. And I was like, huh, okay, that's different, given they were just shoving them around with their spear and throwing them into cells and stuff. So it was like, well, do they respect this prey or do they not? And if they're throwing them into off each other, like what's with that? They're just entertainment now, or are they respected? Like, so that it felt like kind of a contradictory idea for me how it was presented at the end of Killer of Killers, and that was one of my issues with the film.
It is an interesting thought though as well, because maybe they do see it as a sign of respect. Here's your chance to prove your worth, to then have the honor, or the fucking hell, I said honor in relation to the Predators, to have the respect, the chance to then fight the fucking king. That's one way to think about it.
Yeah, because it's like, what would they have done if someone had beaten him? If he'd have lost that fight, would they have let him go? Would they have been like, I guess we're getting ruled by a human now?
Yeah, he's the new king.
Yeah,
That would be hilarious.
and I mean that was
pulls a Riddick there, I guess.
Yeah, well, that was what was it? The Predators ending that Dutch, one of the many aborted Dutch cameos.
He did not show up as a Predator leader. He just showed up in their armor with I think every.
But he had a bunch of Predators with him though, didn't he? Like,
I took that to be he was decked up in armor, so the rest of them had kind of done a Predator Killers Assemble situation there.
Yeah, it might have been, but then I mean, I think another just sort of, sorry to go back again a little bit, but I think another one of the reasons I like, again, I get why some people aren't loving some of the stuff that Dan Trachtenberg has been introducing to the Predators, but to me, I've liked it because it's either been stuff that has been kind of abandoned, but talked about for so long, like the Dutch cameo, the Gladiator stuff, or stuff that really seems to fit with the Predator kind of lore and things that you could imagine Predators doing. And I mean, even this is kind of like people saying, with Badlands feels like a Dark Horse comic in live action, and even these cameos at the end of Killer of Killers feels a bit like a live action version of Predator Hunters, one of the last Dark Horse Predator comics, where you have all these survivors from previous Predator stories teaming up to fight predators. And this is almost like a different way of doing that, where here they're maybe going to have to team up involuntarily as opposed to all coming together in their own. So even that is kind of something that we've seen before in the expanded universe. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm down for that. Like, I can see how this would fit into now, like a canon thing that we've got in an actual Predator movie, and possibly another one at some point in the future.
I think you're right about the Predators ending, by the way. It's not so black and white, because it describes them as, let's see if I can add it into the video feed, a Predator ship. This isn't the Enterprise. Ugly, battered, functional, they stare. A form shimmers into view, a Predator. Another one, about a dozen of them. Royce and Isabel, no energy to fight. No point to run. They simply wait. Predators part like the Red Sea, their leader. His armor different from the rest, covered in trophies. From untold hunts, approaches. Surveys up our duo, the devastation. Last but not least, the slain black super predator. I still fucking hate that phrase. Slowly, he removes his helmet. The face beneath it belongs to Dutch, the man, the myth, the legend. Do you remember that fucking phrase just being everywhere in society? Dutch, not bad kid, not bad at all. Smash to black. So yeah, that reads like he could be leading Predators, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's straight up. He straight up is described as their leader.
Yeah. So, so yeah, maybe what's his face could have been Predator King. I forget the pilot's name. I can't remember his name.
I mean, that was an interesting aspect about Hunting Grounds, where both Dutch and Isabel kind of acted more like predators a bit. They had their own armor that was decorated with trophies they collected. They would say dialogue like, oh, time to hunt and stuff like that. So they had almost kind of adopted these sort of predator traits. So that is an interesting concept. And in the Isabel tapes, she talked about Royce just he wanted to learn from the predators or whatever, and so he went off to find them. No Style Dutch, another one of our Patreon supporters, chimes in here and says, I absolutely can see them seeing it as a great honor. To them, not to most of us. Like, to them, it's like, why wouldn't you love that we're letting you be a gladiator? Yeah, that's a fair point.
Historically, being a gladiator was seen as a relatively prestigious thing for a person of the lower class. Like, you have a way to elevate yourself. So if they have a tarnished view of the human species, they can probably say, "Oh, you beat one of our own. We're letting you participate in fighting us again and again to improve your honor," or whatever. The more you get, the more you will have when you eventually die to us. Better for you to die to us and having a lot of defeats under your belt. It will maybe be a great honor for you as well, human. They can probably spin it in a myriad different ways.
It makes sense and it feels Predator, in my opinion. I genuinely think it feels like something a civilization based so much on violence would do. Yes,
Yeah.
it might not be a hunt, as in, they're not all stalking through the trees, but at the end of the day, we also see it being an appreciation of the ability to fight back, about the conflict, about the combat, not necessarily the process of going through and hunting them down. I don't think that makes it any less predatorish, in my opinion. I still think the crime of this film is how many. So sorry, just to sort of diverge a little bit from there about the civilization and the cultural differences. As much as like I'm in two minds about the new ending, I still think the old ending is a crime to show so many cryo tubes in that warehouse. The implication being that the predator gets beaten that much. That's the problem I have with the end of Killers of Killers. Everything else, well, not everything, because there's little details in there that sort of spoiled the tone and the atmosphere of it. But in terms of lore implications, that's my one problem with the film.
I mean, they were different species, and you have to imagine a lot of predators get killed in their line of work. So
I was also kind of taking it just given that Predators showed us that, they obviously freeze people and take them to different planets, that they might be it might just be a storage place for everyone that they've, captured. Like, some of them might not necessarily have faced predators yet. They might just be waiting to be dropped onto a planet to be hunted or something.
Yeah, but that's not what the film that's not in the internal
Yeah.
logic of Killer of Killers. If this was the Berserker Predators, then yes, it would just be a storage of potential prey. But as it's presented in Killer of Killers, they are the victors. And I think that diminishes the predators.
Yeah.
And that is my main issue with Killer of Killers.
I mean, Predators was the first time that this concept of kidnapped humans being thrown on another world appeared. And then the next significant time was in the new Predator Marvel comics, where they
What's the whole
were on,
point of those?
they were on the same game preserve planet, but it was the first time we saw that these people were from different time periods, and we saw a Predator cryo vault in that comic. But these people were not victors. They had not encountered the Predator before, with the exception of a couple that were with the OWLF. But for the most part, just like in the movie Predators, these were violent individuals, skilled individuals that were tracked down and captured for that, not because they beat a predator. So yeah, that difference does it has made me scratch my head a little bit. We'll have to see how it all plays out. But I mean, I also can't. Yes, I'm a nitpicky fan. Sure, I also can't help but be excited by the prospect that this new ending sets up. I can't help but be excited about that. But I am also hesitant.
It will always be, I think, a little bit of a thrill at the idea of these legacy actors, as well as the characters. There's a fondness for the person behind the character, as well as the actual character itself. And I think it's just human, really. And I don't fault you at all, Adam. I loved hearing Dutch say some shit over, over hunting grounds, and I'd love to see it in a bit more substance is probably the wrong word, because there was a lot of him in the lore videos as well. But to see it on a film, proper, in quotation marks, sort of film is a fantastic prospect.
Regarding the warehouse full of all of the presumed victors, well, that is something that if y'all ever have a chance to speak to Dan again, that would be maybe a good question about Killer of Killers. Are all of the people there presumed to be victors? But even if that was the case, to me, it never kind of made such a problem, because if this is like just a storage vault that's eons and eons ancient, they like to hunt. They probably have, again, for a spacefaring species, there could be any told numbers of them. And hunting across a whole galaxy over who knows how many thousands of years for long-lived species, yeah, I can imagine them piling up a big pile of special elite winners for which they can have the second stage of their entertainment, the gladiatorial arena. I never had too much of a issue there. I also did find in Kill of Killers that part that Adam mentioned, where the predators kind of ceremoniously bow to them before the trio enters the arena. Having before, like being the predators being a little more aggressive towards them, I thought that was a nice kind of characterization. I always found that as like when they're near the entrance and the other predators can look at them, they will do the traditional thing, the ceremonial thing of having respect for them. But in the cells, personal opinions of predators, like, another one of these humans that are beneath us, and maybe their personal disdain of them comes and shines through. But oh no, the other predators are looking. I have to now be proper and uniform and etc.
Maybe it could also come down to personal opinions. This fucking guy, he did not deserve to take out Fred. That is not on, and I do not agree with him being here.
Fred was my friend. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could.
It's my college roommate.
Exactly. I mean, but we could go into the individualization of these characters and try to actually go away from those old sci-fi stereotypes. I think it's a good thing that the spacefaring civilizations, they don't have to be monolithic. Again, we don't have to go into extremes, like in the sense of people come here for the predators. They come here to see some interesting hunts and what the predator will do with all of their kind of specificities. But having them be individuals as characters, that can work quite well. Again, I am somebody who very empathizes with expanded media lore and having that be retconned a bit. That, yes, I understand the pain, and that is to some extent troubling for some fans. But again, even this ending, it hasn't retconned all of the expanded media. Basically, it retcons The Stalking Shadows, which wasn't a very popular novel, and Predator Hunting Grounds lore, which, yes, those tapes, they were awesome. I liked them as well. But at the same time, if we kind of tier the canon of the expanded universe, I never really could get behind that game being like completely canon, because in that game you could have 4 Dutches 2025. You can have clone of 4 people of them, or you can have Dutch 25 and Dutch 87 in the same match. Like, yeah, the game is the gameplay is.
I think you have to split story elements with gameplay elements, though.
Yes. I understand that can be looked upon in that way, but having already something like that, it's not a single player focused game. It's not something where the campaign is prevalent, like Alien vs Predator or Predator Concrete Jungle. So I always just looked at those material as auxiliary for already an auxiliary material, which is a game. So expanded for the expansion, which already diminishes it in terms of that somebody's going to remember and care for it, unfortunately. However good it was, which I liked it, but I think that we can really keep a lot of the core elements of the predator while expanding the behaviors. But like everybody has said here, it would be nice to have just some clarification or some kind of contrast, and it can be scenes, it can be a line of dialogue, like if you already have predators speaking in Badlands, etc. A predator bad mouthing another clan, or saying, oh, this other clan does things differently or strangely, but we do things like this. there are a million different ways, but just having the ability to show things again that there could be differences. As Kailem said, I liked in Predators that those differences were hinted at in a strange way, in a different way, where it can be interpreted in multitudes. But I think that we can do with having that kind of confrontation again be just solidified on screen, so that the wider audience can have a more understanding that they all like to hunt. Maybe it can be a pillar of their society. I like how Adam compared it to their capitalism or whatever, but they can have individualistic approaches. And what Aaron said about only in Predator 2 do we see that kind of big honor play in the sense of giving that flintlock. The other entries, they show, especially Predator 1, it's more sportsmanship than it is honor. Predator 2 has honor-like honor-like moments, which is then expanded and goes haywire with the Perry stuff. In Predators, we have 3 Predators that acted actually quite differently, individualistically. So there is room for that. The expanded universe does a lot of interesting things, but even there, we shouldn't forget the instances of having unique predators, and not every difference in a predator characteristic should be, oh, that's a bad blood. Any unique predator, that's a bad blood, but only the monolithic Klingon things, that's a real predator.
And remember, bad blood was an entirely original concept for predators at one point itself. You know, the idea of it just being in for the shits and giggles of the kill at one point. You know, so we've accepted this in the past,
but it was an idea that didn't have wide-reaching lore applications, and it was an idea that I think most fans could just instantly get excited about without hesitation, because it's like, oh yeah, it makes sense that there would be crazy ass predators causing a bunch of damage, and the not insane predators would have to track them down and take them out. That is an interesting idea that doesn't have wide-reaching lore applications. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a little distinct from what we're seeing here, even though yes, at one time it was a completely new idea introduced to the predators.
True. I mean, it's just, I find personally that for Predators, I have quite the opposite kind of attitude that I have, for instance, towards the Alien franchise, where for the Predators, since they are spacefaring species with human parallels in the sense of individualistic experiences, intelligence, cultures, and behaviors, almost certainly, you can do a lot of unique, interesting things. Whereas with like aliens, you have their biology, which should be relatively straightforward here and there, but even in behavior as animalistic, there should be some shared things, but you can also explore different behaviors there from individuals. I think that it's not a bad thing to show variations of behavior of a character that can flesh them out really well, be it a hero or a villain here. So it can have, I think, quite a good impact on the story if we just give these predators in future installments a bit more character, showing why they are unique, why their approach is uh, different from other predators. And it can help a lot if we have this on-screen kind of uh, conflict, or just to show that predators do things differently if they are in different groups, different clans, different roles. Like Kailem said, we shouldn't probably just have, oh, all predators at this age do that, they have this ritual, etc. Yeah, not only is that like creatively limiting, I don't have that much of an issue with setting like lore details. I personally am the type of person that I like to know as much as possible. As long as the lore is interesting, it can be super fleshed out. But the problem is when you flesh out something so in an absolutist way, future creatives are going to forget those details. You're going to limit them, and they're going to have to retcon them because they just forgot or they don't care, like for the expanded universe materials. So with Predator, we have very good kind of setting where we can say, if we just on film, like Dan states somewhere that predators do things differently in different clans, and it's showed and fleshed out a bit
And
more. And any future entry can do that freely.
There is no better way to do it now. Well, no, that's a lie. There might always be a better way. I'm just limited in my vision. But, Badlands as a concept is a fantastic way to do that now without it feeling, like fucking Olivia Munn's got to come up with some theory or whatever about it. The Predators can explicitly tell us it now going forwards. So that's the thing where, I was always kind of hesitant with Badlands making the Predators too not bad guyish. I still want them to be fucking bad guys.
Human.
Well, I mean, not necessarily too human, but more. I still want them to be something I should be scared of. I want to be scared of. Well, I wouldn't be because I'm too fat and slow and my knees hurt to be threatened by a predator. But I want them to be something that is still a villain. That is still something to be feared.
I think they're more flexible than that. Yes, in many cases they can be the villain in the story, but that's the appeal for me with Badlands is I don't always want them to be big scary creature. Like in the comics, seeing their perspective, even in some of the games playing as them, was a really interesting insight. I still think, would I like another Predator movie in the future that's like a dark horror movie with a terrifying predator creature? Absolutely. But there's flexibility there that not every Predator portrayal needs to be that way, in my opinion.
Oh, I'm not saying it can't do it. I'm just saying at this point, I'm still a little scared of that because I have such a problem with Perry's exaggerated Perry's version. I always have to emphasize that. Prey on its own is not that bad, but it's just a little worry. And maybe once I've actually got
AVP Prey to specify. AVP Prey. The book.
Yes. Well, come on.
Think the movie Prey.
Within context, when we're talking about Perry and the Yautja, people should know that Prey refers to the novel.
Just
clarify. Not everybody knows, Aaron. We have a lot of people from different corners at different times taking in different expanded universe material.
All right. I'll take it. AVP Prey. Once Badlands comes out and it's awesome, then that'll be the end of it as far as I'm concerned. It'll have demonstrated that it can do it because, it's still going to be a predator being badass.
And the first 15 minutes were awesome, just to say.
And by the time this episode goes up, Adam's debrief of the San Diego Comic Con, that episode will already be out, as will your write-up. Is that going up today?
Yes, still working on that. I've been catching up with real life stuff since getting back from San Diego. But yes,
by the end of the week at least.
Yes, well, I'm aiming to complete that today as well as some other videos I'm working on. So it's busy for us because not only am I catching up on all the Comic-Con stuff, we just have a bunch of news like daily to post now.
I currently have a window up on AVP Galaxy on our back end, getting ready to type a new article up for some new news while we've been doing this. This week, I've done something every single fucking day, I think, related to a recording or an edit or a release or something. So, yeah, we're pretty busy right now. And,
probably the busiest we've ever been.
Like, absolutely.
Even the lead up to Covenant, like I can't think of another time we've been as busy as we are now. But it's good busy. It's good busy.
Anytime there's new shit coming out, well, as long as it's good new shit at the end of the day. I always have to clarify that. As long as it's good at the end of it.
Hey, even out of the Predator, we still got Fugitive. He was cool. So
yeah.
But good stuff is preferred. Yeah.
I mean, if I could go back and erase all of the Predator sort of lead up and all the new posts and stuff that we did over that time for the sake of preserving a bit of Predator's integrity as a franchise, I would sacrifice.
I would just say, give me the Shane Black cut. I want to see those emissary Predators smoking their cigars.
I would still be interested in seeing it. Absolutely. Do I expect them to do it? Do I think it would have been a better film? No.
I think it'll
crazy film.
Not to compare it to Alien 3, but Alien 3 wasn't well regarded until the assembly cut came out, and I think it could do the same
And it
thing.
still isn't.
Yeah, overall, people will throw a whole lot of praise on Alien 3. It's some of people's favorites in the franchise. Most people still don't consider it a very good sequel, and I think the same would be the case with The Predator, but I think it would get more fan appreciation. Just because you have two other practical predators in it doing things we haven't seen predators really do before.
I don't
Some of the
think it
scenes from the trailer, like the APC race with the flipping vehicle, like that looked cool. Where was that? So I think it's worth releasing.
I would watch it. I don't think it's going to be better or resulting massive changes of opinions or anything.
I do know someone who saw
the script.
a test screening and said it was better. I read the script and
I've read the script and it's shit.
I would have preferred seeing that. It was still wild and batshit crazy, but at least it went, balls to the wall instead of, oh, now we're spooky horror in the woods now. Like, at least it knew what it was doing.
Sarah's pissed.
Listen, I love Alien 3. Alien 3 to the Predator. It took me a while to love Alien 3, but I do love Alien 3.
I loved Alien 3 from the first viewing, and it's always been a film I've been absolutely in love with and absolutely fascinated by.
Yeah.
Anyway,
not love it on first viewing, but I did fly out to LA to watch it on film, so I do love Alien 3. It has gained that for me, and the assembly cut was a big part of that.
Well, should we wrap up?
Yes.
If we dive
time to wrap up, I think. But it was interesting to see this new ending retroactively put on again. That's kind of a age we're living in with movies kind of thing. I really hope we see Killer of Killers physical release with Prey. I expect it'll be at least a year before we see that, but it'd be nice to see.
Yeah, especially now they've done the ending that they wanted to do.
Yeah, it's like I saw one comment saying, "What, even movies are getting DLC now in this day and age?"
Yeah. Not only that. Another video game analogy. Now that I think about it, comparing our two in the franchises related recent entries. So both Romulus and Killer of Killers. Killer of Killers got basically a little DLC. Romulus got a post-release patch, like a video game patch.
That's funny.
Boost effects. So we're getting the video gamification of these things with the ability to stream and perfect it. It's so goddamn strange. I mean, it's not bad, but it's strange.
Yeah, I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. But then again, it's all part of that rushed timeline. It's the part of that putting games out that are unfinished. And I'm sorry, we're already tangenting again. Let's stop.
One last example. I mean, we have seen that before with the in Aliens, the hole in the floor that Bishop comes out of, where that was
different
patched
iterations
for
between
the Blu-ray
physical releases. Yeah,
still haven't patched up the Queen's neck hole, so hopefully that's next.
Unless you watch the fan edit, but that
did that do that? Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Was that Aliens Refined?
Refined that, and Ipone's fast forward face and some of the other matte lines, etc. All of the details were fixed there, but no more tangents. Sorry.
I think, I joked about us turning 10 seconds into 3 hours, but ultimately, I think this has been a pretty fun discussion on Predator lore and implications of stuff. So perhaps not the mini-sode I thought it would be, but still quite interesting. And hopefully everybody out there listening agrees. Let us know if you enjoyed this discussion, this type of discussion. We are going to try and put out a lot more topical discussions related to news and rolling with it.
Newserings.
Yeah. English is not a very good language.
English bad tonight. Done not good.
Anyway. Okay, before we go, let's have a look at No Star Dutch's question. Sorry if this was addressed before. I got here, but where do we think the new post-credit scene will be addressed? Oh, as in, where do you think it'll go? Absolutely going to be animated follow-ups. I don't think we'll see it as a live action. And that is, again, we said that earlier in the episode, it is benefit of them actually doing older legacy characters in an animated form, because you can depict them as being their younger selves closer to those original films if required. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, given how well Killer of Killers did, I have to imagine they would do another animated film sometime. So definitely that.
But yeah, thanks to our patrons who have joined us for the live broadcast of this. As always, their support is very much fucking appreciated, and it makes our jobs a lot easier, and it makes our jobs even more possible to do more reaching things, like actually be able to go to San Diego Comic Con and be your eyes and ears there. So thank you, and thank you for joining us in the live broadcast. If you want to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/AVP Galaxy. I think is as simple as the URL is. If you want to join in with us nerds and come and get passionate online on message boards like we're living in the 2000s, goddamn, I will cling to these message boards until I'm an old 60, 70-year-old man who has not yet been driven away from online fandom by gatekeepers and wankers, because the rest of them are lovely. And if you want to come and join the lovely people, we have message boards, avpgalaxy.net/forums. Come sign up an account and come get involved. All the hub of our activities on avpgalaxy.net, where we post the written news and written content that we do. There is often video versions of that content on YouTube. So if you're listening to this and you want to come see what our beautiful faces look like, then video and slightly less polished versions of the podcasts are available on YouTube, along with our weekly streams on Sundays. We've hit most Sundays. We've actually been pretty good this year. We haven't actually missed that many. So we'll play various Alien and Predator games. We'll have a chat. We'll argue with chat. We'll argue with each other. Come join us. That is always fun. And we're on all the major socials, Twitter, Facebook, Blue Skies, Threads, Instagram as Alien versus Predator or AVP Predator. AVP Galaxy. Did I miss the Galaxy off the Alien versus Predator?
I don't know.
Alien versus Predator or AVP Galaxy. Look, we recorded this one later than we normally do. So, yeah, that's my excuse. That and early dementia. I'm convinced I'm getting early dementia, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you to everybody for listening or watching. Thank you to Kailem. Thank you to Greg. It's weird to me. I never want to call you Stephen. I always want to call you Kailem, even though I'll happily go Greg and Adam.
I'm more used to being called Kailem as well, for some reason.
But thank you to our hosts and to everybody listening. This has been Corporal Hicks.
RidgeTop.
Still collating.
And Kailem.
Getting to the chopper. Or getting in the cryo storage. Being forcefully put in the cryo storage. The amount of predators that all of us, between each other, have killed throughout the years, we best be in that motherfucking gladiatorial ring, taking down that king and taking over as warlord of this particular clan of predators. We can do it. I believe in us.
Yeah.
But yeah.
For sure.
We can do it.
That's a different film. That's an Adam Sandler film. Thank you, everybody, for listening or watching. Until next time.